Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and knock that out while you're here. Let's get into it. I want to start today with UCLA, which improved to 15-2 late Thursday with a 68-49 win over Utah. Now, in and of itself, that's not really notable. Utah hasn't been the same since Bama left the program for a second time. But it is worth noting that UCLA is now 6-0 in the Pac-12 after being picked to win the Pac-12, making the Bruins the only power conference team that's living up to expectations after being picked in the preseason to win its league. We noted this earlier in the week. Baylor was picked to win the Big 12, but it's just 1-3 in the Big 12. Indiana was picked to win the Big 10, but it's just 1-4 in the Big 10. Creighton picked to win the Big East, just 3-3 in the Big East. Kentucky picked to win the SEC. 1-3 in the SEC. Fans want the coach fired. North Carolina was picked to win the ACC, just 3-3 in the ACC. A lot of disappointing teams out there, but not UCLA. The Bruins were picked to win the Pac-12 and are now 15-2 overall, 6-0 in the Pac-12, alone atop the league standings and on a 12-game winning streak, which is the third longest in the country and tops among power conference schools. Deadleg, I couldn't help but notice you got UCLA second in your weekly power rankings. Tell folks why you're so high on Mick Cronin's Bruins, besides the obvious reason Mick Cronin's the coach.
We always start with Cronin being the coach there. UCLA has also won 12 in a row. It's the third longest streak in the country. Hasn't lost since November 20th. So power rankings, I do tend to reward significant winning streaks, and UCLA hasn't lost. It's not going to get dropped. And as a function of some other teams losing since, it's just continued to rise and rise. So yeah, but it's not just my power rankings. If you really look across the board here, UCLA is number 3 in KenPom, 3 at Sagarin, 3 in BPI. It's 7 in the net right now. It's a little, it's between 6 and 10 overall in traditional or at least results-based metrics. It's also 3rd at Torvik. So why the hell not? Let's start with the Bruins here real quick off the top, just to at least highlight them. They've got a nondescript game at home this Saturday. It's the Fox primetime game, 8 o'clock, I think, against Colorado. It won't be news if they win. And we'll talk about the Bruins again next weekend because they actually play at Arizona next Saturday. So that arguably could be the game of the weekend there. But at least shine a light on the fact that the Bruins have been able to, I think Cronin has been able to elevate the program here to top 10 levels since making the surprise run to the Final Four when he did so, going from first 4 to Final Four. He got there in 1920. There was no tournament then. UCLA was pacing to being a tournament team, was really a bubble team overall. Then squeaks in, makes the Final Four. There was the UNC-like buzz before there was UNC buzz about they made the Final Four. Should they be a top 5 team? I remember selling that notion, but buying UCLA being, top 10 level-ish. They wound up finishing 11th at KenPom last season and making the Sweet 16. Lo and behold, losing. Back? I am back. All right, you got me back. I don't know what to tell you, man. I dropped out there. I don't know when you lost me, but I am back. Can you hear me, GP?
I can hear you now. I was just sitting here posing.
Okay, I'll continue what I was saying. I'll just stroll through this real quick. Yeah, Wi-Fi completely dropped there, but we are back. What do you want from me? Cronin has been able to take last year, good year. I actually don't think I don't think that UCLA failed to completely meet expectations. I actually thought the expectation should have been them to be a top 10 team. And now it's been a top 5 team. Only losses, both respectable. Illinois and Baylor. No, Illinois and Baylor aren't necessarily top 15 teams, but those are on neutral courts. And they were competitive games there. And now, yeah, UCLA to me is not just second in my power rankings, but if I had to even remove that and build out a tournament resume. Like, they're clearly a 2 seed at worst. And there's a strong case that they're a top 5 team in the country. They rate top 5 in defensive efficiency. And even like like Amari Bailey, you can go off on all that if you want, jokes all aside. Adeem Bona has been the freshman that has really come on strong as of late. And his play, I mean, he had 15 against Utah, 18 against Washington recently, a recent Pac-12 freshman of the week. He has been quality, on top of the fact that Jaquez is a top 10 player, top 15 player in the country. Tiger Campbell, I wouldn't take 5 point guards over him personally. Jalen Clark is a wonderful two-way player. So when I talked to Cronin about this, when I saw him at the CBS Sports Classic, when they had no issues with Kentucky, and I think I mentioned this on the pod, he just mentioned the fact that Jaquez, Campbell, and Clark, they're like practically best of friends off the floor, and then the locker room itself, he says, I have no issues. David Singleton's been there forever. So because they haven't had a lot of high profile games, they've been a little bit off the radar, but wake up, America. Best coach in UCLA history has this team rolling and potentially headed toward a 1 seed in a couple of months.
The problem when you drop is that I don't know if it's you or if it's me, because I'm still having internet problems. C Spire is going to be at my house today at 2:00 to try to resolve my issues.
I'm going to have to call Spectrum. So I got Spectrum now. We got issues here.
So when you dropped, I thought it might have been me. So I just sort of sitting here looking pretty and stuff. I just sort of sat here just like this. I was just sitting here like this for 30 seconds or whatever. I didn't know what to do. Listen, UCLA is obviously good. Does it bother you at all? Not bother you, that's not the right word. But they are 0-2 against top 25 KenPom teams. They lost to Illinois, Baylor. They have lost to the 2 best teams they've played. They don't currently have a win over a team ranked in my top 25 and 1, a team ranked in the AP poll, coaches poll, or the top 35 of the net.
Doesn't bother me, only because the predictive data suggests that they're still good enough to validate being top 5 status. And they don't. Here's the other thing. They have played some good teams. They've won 4 road games at this point, and they don't turn the ball over. Top 5 in not turning it over, turnover rate in the country, and top 12 in forcing turnovers. So they're actually good at both ends. They play both ends of the floor well. Will they need to prove it a bit more? Yes. Should we absolutely expect on the Arizona swing next week they'll go 2-0? I don't know if we should expect that. They got to play at ASU and at Arizona. Arizona State's actually a pretty solid team this season as well. And then they've got to play at USC the week after there. So I think UCLA is going to take at least 1 loss here. But I do believe that this UCLA team is tracking closer to what a lot of people thought UCLA might have been last season, even though I will reiterate, and I might have dropped when I said this, so people might not have even said it, but I'll say it again. UCLA finished last season 11th at KenPom, coincidentally enough, or ironically enough, losing to UNC in the Sweet 16. So a top 5 team in the eyes of some last season. They fell short of that, but wound up being 11th, making a Sweet 16 run with a 4 seed. Overall, I thought they actually pretty much met expectations, but this group is more of what I think some people thought UCLA from a year ago would be.
And they're doing it at least most of this winning streak, or a good portion of this winning streak, without Amari Bailey, the 5-star freshman. He's been sidelined with a foot injury since December 21st. So, he wasn't having some top 5 freshman of the year type of season when healthy, but he's a meaningful player. So when they get him back, should be stronger. Like you mentioned, Colorado this weekend, then the Arizona schools on the road next weekend. The Arizona game is the weekend game, I believe. And for what it's worth, KenPom currently projects UCLA to be favored in every remaining game, including at the McKell Center. You buying that?
No. Well, the betting line, it'll depend on results here.
Sure.
The betting line will not reflect that. I would imagine, I'm guessing that's a 1-point UCLA projected win right now. That's my guess. Yeah, it is 77-76. Betting line will have Arizona favored unless Arizona plays at Oregon Saturday, home to USC. Like, if Arizona were to drop its next 2, which is unlikely, but if it were in that situation, if UCLA hasn't lost, I could see UCLA being favored. But I would think that the actual betting line when we get to it will have Zona favored.
I agree with you. KenPom, for whatever it's worth, currently projects UCLA to go 17-3 in the Pac-12 and win the league by 3 games. And if that were to happen, then stay in the court. Nell can stay.
That's right.
It's not Nell didn't lose that game in the Astrodome. It's not her fault. Stay in the court. Nell can stay. UCLA looks great. It'll. And I say they don't have wins over top 25 this and top 35 that. They don't have many opportunities. I mean, like the like Arizona and UCLA are the two really good teams in the Pac-12. And then who else do you trust in that league besides those two?
No one at the moment. There's no one
Yeah.
that you can actually trust in that league. Doesn't mean Pac-12 only get two teams. Pac-12 will send more than two to the tournament.
Of
in terms
course.
of trustworthiness, it's just UCLA and Arizona. And I say that with Arizona having that super, super, super weird home loss to Washington State last weekend.
Yeah, nobody else in the Pac-12 is in the top 45 at KenPom. UCLA is 3 right now, like you mentioned. Arizona is 10. Nobody else in the top 45. Let's move on. In the preseason, Arkansas looked like a possible Final Four team, and Alabama looked like on paper a borderline top 25 team. Those labels, I think, have now been completely reversed. We're going to talk non-Kentucky SEC next, but first, a word from our partners.
Don't stop watching Leo Messi, the man, the myth, the legend, Messi! The GOAT. Utterly explosive! The UEFA Champions League. Stream PSG matches live February on Paramount+.
So in the preseason, Arkansas on paper looked like a Final Four team. Alabama on paper, borderline top 20, 25 team. Like I said, those labels have been reversed. Alabama just went to Bud Walton midweek and beat the Razorbacks by 15 points. Now, it was close. Alabama just went on it was like a 2-point game with 5 minutes to go, and Alabama closed on a ridiculous run. But still, it's a fact. Won the game by 15 points. So Crimson Tide are now 14-2 overall, 4-0 in the SEC, tied with Tennessee atop the league standings. Meantime, Arkansas is now 12-4 overall, 1-3 in the SEC, just 1-3 in its past 4 games. Deadleg, let's start with Alabama, then we'll get to Arkansas. Does Nate Oates have the best team in the SEC?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, all right, let me.
You're picking between Alabama and Tennessee. Probably.
I know. If they played tomorrow, neutral, on a neutral, middle of South Dakota, our classic setup, who are you taking?
I'm taking Alabama.
I think I would take Alabama. And if you're listening now and you're like, well, when do these teams play? They only are scheduled to play once this season. Tennessee gets that home game. It is a middle of the week Wednesday game in the middle of February. We've got some time before we get there. If you made me pick, I would take Alabama narrowly in a neutral court situation, in part because Alabama has, I think, narrowly proved it over tougher competition to this point. Alabama has 5 quad 1 wins. The only other teams in the country with at least 5 are Arizona, Kansas, Miami, all have 5. Purdue has 6. Alabama's only 2 losses, obviously both of them being respectable. At PK 85, they got rolled. I watched it against UConn, and then they got beat in Birmingham with a scorching hot second half performance out of Gonzaga, 100-90. But everything else has been aces to this point, and the defense is actually performing slightly better than the offense. I remember noting this, I think, earlier this season on the pod, because I certainly picked up on it when I saw them play in person out in Portland. Alabama's the trick that Nate Oates is able to pull off is that this team will play. It will play you fast, and it will still be able to maintain a certain level of competency with its shot selection, its shooting, its efficiency overall. That's not an easy thing to do. It's what makes them playing them so tough. And also, Alabama has, at this point, we've talked about how Zach Edey is the clear front runner for National Player of the Year. It's an arguable. Brandon Miller is the clear, at this point. Kyle Filipowski just had a really good game for Duke, and we'll mention them in the weekend preview. But Brandon Miller is absolutely the National Freshman of the Year front runner to this point, and only reinforcing that he should be considered a top 5 pick, obviously, when the draft comes around. It's not just him. Mark Sears has actually gotten better as the season's gone along. Noah Clowney has shown some real flashes. I thought Charles Bediako, who has been good, shooting 63% from inside the 3-point line. He's just a traditional 7-footer. I actually thought he'd be even a little better than he's been so far. I think that Bama has more room to grow, but yeah. And what was I noted this also in my power rankings. The game was just not a fun watch. I actually thought the officials didn't live up to the moment. Inconsistent whistle, some bad calls, some missed calls there. Bama deserved to win. They won it going away. But I actually thought that was on that Wednesday night when we previewed that on the Wednesday show. I was watching 7 games simultaneously, and the way I was doing is I usually, if I've got all multi-game setup, I go 2 games with volume. One kind of has the dominant volume, one is the second, and everything else has got to be silent. And if I switch, I switch. And Bama Arkansas had the dominant volume for a little bit, but eventually it became such an unappetizing watch that I reduced it to the mute and focused on some other games there. But good win on Bama, and it's staring down potentially another 4 consecutive wins, not automatics, but home to LSU, at Vandy, at Mizzou. We'll see. Mizzou is fading a little bit, but it is a road contest next weekend against Mizzou, and then home against Mississippi State before they've got the Big 12 SEC game at the end of the month there. But Bama, I think right now, I haven't actually broken this down, GP. If I wouldn't put Bama on the 1 line right now, they'd probably be my top 2 seed.
I would have them on the 1 line right now. I've got them 4th in the top 25 and 1 behind Houston, Purdue, and Kansas. So those would be my 1 seeds right now: Houston, Purdue, Kansas, and Alabama. And like I wrote in Thursday morning's top 25 and 1, they check every box, not just for a Final Four team, but to win the national championship. Like, what does it start with? Typically, great coach. Well, they got that. Nate Oates is a great basketball coach. They're really good offensively. 16th in adjusted offensive efficiency, according to Ken Pom. Even better defensively. 9th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They've got an identity. They're going to play fast. Somewhere between 45 and 50% of their field goal attempts are going to come from beyond the arc. They're going to guard you. They've got experienced and talented guards. And then what's the last thing you typically need? An NBA, like a lottery pick type guy. And they've got that in Brandon Miller, who, whether he goes 3rd, 5th, 8th, wherever, he's going to be making a lot of money playing basketball next season in the NBA and for a lot of seasons after that. So if I had to pick the best team in the SEC right now, I think I would go with Alabama. And I'm not suggesting there's a big gap between Alabama and Tennessee, but there are just these moments, and every college basketball team is flawed in moments. I got it. But hell, every NBA team is flawed in moments. But Tennessee has these moments where they can struggle to score. And I don't think Alabama is as susceptible to running into that as Tennessee might be. I just think Alabama's probably not as good defensively as Tennessee. Certainly the numbers show that, but they're good enough. And offensively, they are better than Tennessee. And that's why I would lean slightly in that direction, but I'd be willing to reconsider at a later date. As for Arkansas, the Hogs are 12-4. That sounds fine, I guess, but they have lost 3 of their past 4, the past 2 by double digits. And as I also wrote in Thursday's top 25 and 1, I do think we've reached the place where it's fair to wonder just how good are they, because they're not operating with the roster that people looked at and then ranked them preseason top 10. They do not have Nick Smith Jr., who's dealing with a lingering knee injury issue. Let's call it an issue. And they do not have Trayvon Brazile, who tore his ACL and is out for the season. That's 2 of the top 4 scorers on the team. Mm-hmm. It is their best incoming recruit / best NBA prospect, and their what appears to be their second best transfer. And I don't care if we're talking about Eric Musselman, who is terrific, or most coaches in the country. Now, the one exception to this is last season, Kelvin Sampson. But most coaches in the country lose 2 of their top 4, and you've got real problems in a league like the SEC. Now, Kelvin lost 2 of his top 4, and it was fine. Partly, I guess, because they played in the AAC, but they also marched that thing all the way to the Elite 8. That was why I believe at CBS Sports we named Kelvin Sampson the National Coach of the Year. I wouldn't rule anything out because I'm a big believer in Muss, but ask any coach. You lose your best NBA prospect, 2 of your top 4. What does that do to your perceived ceiling? And they'll tell you it's almost always going to lower it.
I would agree. Couple quickies on Arkansas. They'll win more games. I'm not predicting this, but put me down for 15% chance this thing actually goes way sideways and they go from like 11-1 to not making the tournament. The reason why I say this is if you look at the resume to this point, the best win is against Oklahoma on a neutral and then San Diego State on a neutral. Those are 2 really good ones that are going to carry it. I think they're going, but they're so unreliable on offense. They're going to have to win ugly. So losing 3 of the past 4, LSU, Auburn, Bama, and now 3-point shooting is not everything, but it is obviously so significant in modern college basketball at all levels. Arkansas, I talked to Muss about this like 9 days ago. I wrote about Nick Smith for the Court Report, and then I kind of talked about Arkansas's team overall with Muss. Nick Smith Jr. and Trevon Brazile were their two most reliable three-point shooters. And Muss even told me, he's like, we are adjusting, and we had a whole plan for how we wanted to run our offense, and we don't have the two guys we wanted to run it through. So it's a major adjustment. Arkansas ranks 347 out of 363. 347th out of 363 teams in three-point accuracy. It also doesn't take a lot. 350th in three-point attempt rate. The best three-point shooter. I really like Anthony Black's game. I actually really hope he will have the potential to be drafted this year. I think he could pop and be a top 15 player in the country next season if he opts to come back. He's their best three-point shooter right now. He's making 30.4% of his threes, and he doesn't take a lot. He takes like 2.5 per game. So, there's a lot to be desired on that end of the floor. Now, the defense is good enough. Muss is a good coach. I think they'll get it done, but it would not stun me if they really stumble, because they've still got to play at Missouri. They got to go at Baylor. Kentucky's a mess, but they do have to play at Rupp, got to play at Bama, got to play at Tennessee. It's not going to be easy, and I did have Arkansas preseason top 10. I thought Arkansas had a healthy shot at being the second best team. I had Kentucky. I mean, I was Samsonite. I could not have been more way off on both of these teams. I think they'll ultimately be okay, but I think Hogs fans might be having this concern. Now, we'll see if Nick Smith Jr. returns. If he returns, and the hope is there that he will be able to, that could help alleviate some things. They are going to certainly need him. He has a knee issue. It's been plaguing him, and I can't remember if I mentioned it on the pod, but I wrote about it last week's court report. I won't belabor the point, but I spoke with 3 different NBA people, one of them an NBA GM. They all believe, because that he is represented by Clutch Sports, and at the NBA level or at the college level, traditionally, Clutch Sports tends to protect its clients to a level that is, frankly, can be immensely frustrating to people at the NBA level. And so there is a lot of actual skepticism over whether or not Nick Smith Jr. will ever play again for Arkansas. I think he will play. And I've been told that he is eager to play, but they are simply not going to put him out there if he's not 100%. And I don't feel as though he could hurt the knee again and maybe damage his stock, because he could not play again and would have I think he has a lock to be a top 8. If he doesn't play again, he could still conceivably go in the top 5. So they are trying to strike a balance there. No one really knows. It is an ongoing plot point, but they will probably need him to come back if they want to be a factor in the SEC and really have a chance in the NCAA tournament.
Needless to say, and I'll be quick on this, if he's hurt, he should not play. If he's not 100%, he should not play. And this goes for anybody. If you don't want to play college basketball because you're a projected top 10 pick, and you just want to sit it out, wait for the draft, it's fine with me. I understand it. I don't like when you commit to play in college basketball and you're on a team and the coaches are counting on you, and then you just decide, hey, I'm a top 10 pick, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't like that. Like, again, if you want to skip college, fine with me. If you're actually hurt, of course, don't play. If you're not 100%, and so there is a risk element in playing, don't play. You millions of dollars are at stake. But if he is medically cleared to play and they say, listen, there's nothing wrong here, it's up to him if he wants to play, but there's no reason physically that he can't play, I would prefer him to play. I remember a few years ago when Zion got hurt midseason, and there were people saying, hey, you're the number 1 pick in the draft, shut it down. And he said, absolutely not. Like, I'm on this team. I committed to be on this team. I want to play college basketball. I know I'm risking something, but I was risking something before I got hurt, and everybody's risking something to some degree, probably me more than most, more than any. But I told these people I was going to be there with them, and I'm going to see it through. James Wiseman was obviously the other end of the spectrum on that. Like I said, I'm not somebody who says if you don't play in college, you're making a mistake. If you decide I'm skipping college because I'm already a top 10 pick and I'm just going to train, that is totally fine with me. I don't care. Like, college basketball survived without LeBron James, without Amari Stoudemire, without Kobe Bryant, without Kevin Garnett. College basketball will be fine. But I think when you commit to a team and the coaches have game planned everything around you, if you are able to come back and play, then you should come back and play. And I if he reaches that point where the doctors, trainers, everybody agrees he is 100% ready to go if he wants to go, I would I would prefer him try to give it a go. Where are you at on that?
I would lean with you, and I think it is going to be an interesting balance that gets struck. Muss has talked about it on the record, and he kind of repeated with me. He is all in on doing as much as he possibly can to make sure Nick Smith Jr. gets drafted as high as humanly possible. He wants and hopes, and I think in his heart of hearts, I think Muss thinks that he's going to return, but it is just unknown at this point. And I think the thing that that reinforces this is that Nick Smith Jr. first hurt his knee when they went on their foreign trip over the summer. And then I had an NBA person tell me he re-aggravated it at some point in the past few weeks or right before Christmas. And so the fact that it happened again, I think with the same knee is why they're just being extra cautious there. But to your general point, I agree with you. And he's just the latest, lottery top 10 level pick that we have seen get to college, play a few games, and he could wind up missing most of the season. It's a bummer, but we have actually seen this over the years with a number of players. I mentioned that also recently on a pod.
All right, let's get to the final 4-1. Nada, you want to update us on these records? How far am I ahead right now?
Sir, you are currently 1 game behind. You, due to the belief in the Horned Frogs and you, how would I put this nicely, derailing another fan base with your you're a game behind. But however,
Okay.
let's focus on the positive here. You are above 500, probably the latest that you've ever been.
It's possible. Certainly feels that way. It's just a bad week to be a Horned Frog. And by the way, I don't know if you've seen Friday's top 25 and 1 yet, but guess who I got back in there at number 26? My Illini.
Oh, okay.
Choo, choo.
They're going to find you at some point. Don't do this, GP. They're going to find you.
My Illini back in there. I had to get Ohio State out of there. Couldn't deal with them anymore. Not after last night. Couldn't deal with them anymore. So I had to replace them. And so you replace them with Illinois. I've got this all figured out. I mapped it out. You replace them with Illinois at 26. Tonight, you get Illinois and Michigan State. And if Illinois loses, just put Michigan State in. Easy. I've already mapped out my weekend.
Bro.
Game 1, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, number 18 Wisconsin at Indiana inside Tom Crean Hall. Tom Crean won 2 outright Big Ten titles in a 4-year span and got fired 1 year later. Reap what you sow. You can watch it on CBS. Kim Pom's got it. Indiana -5.
We picked this for the site too. I'm trying to stay consistent here. I think, what did I pick on this one? You said IU -5, right?
That's what Kim Pom says.
Yeah. Again, reminder, if you're listening to this, if you get to this late Friday, early Saturday, the lines are not available at this hour for the Saturday game. So we go off the Ken Pom projection. They're normally often within a point, usually no more than 2 points with rare exception there. I think I took Wisconsin to cover and Indiana. No, Indiana -5. Yeah, I took Wisconsin to cover and Indiana to win. I'll stick with that. I'll take the Badgers. I'm taking the Badgers to cover the 5. I will take IU with a narrow win. Gracious, does that fan base need it? 10-6 right now, and does not have an NCAA tournament resume.
Indiana is the Big Ten's Kentucky.
Yes. And won't Kentucky fans love to hear that?
Kentucky and Indiana fans, you guys should, if you can get the internet back, you guys should get together like in a Twitter Spaces or something. Isn't that a thing? Twitter Spaces?
I think so.
Yeah, Kentucky fans and Indiana fans should do a Twitter Spaces. They can talk about how things were supposed to go so differently this season. Indiana needs this bad. They're going to drop to 1-5 in the Big Ten if they don't win this game. 1-5 in the Big Ten after being the Big Ten favorite. I'm taking Indiana. I'm laying points. I'm going with my Hoosiers. Game 2, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's number 11 Kansas State at number 17 TCU inside Kirby Smart Arena. Kirby Smart, after what he did.
Cold. I know, I got you. That's cold, though. It's tough.
Kirby Smart that was part of winning the national championship game in such overwhelming fashion They have now changed the name of TCU's basketball arena. They've named it after the Georgia football coach, Kirby Smart Arena. You can watch this one on ESPN2. KenPom has it TCU -2.
Someone might need to fact check this, but I want to say TCU's men's basketball team is now 0-2. Its football team 0-1 since Parrish debuted his Horned Frog impersonation. Again, he cannot stop destroying fan bases. It's just what he does. It's his thing. I have to take, give me TCU, cover, win, K-State 15-1 on the road here. It's got a tough one too coming up, TCU, and then it'll host Kansas. Will the Wildcats there? I will go TCU. Kansas State.
You're a horn frog.
I am not. Yeah, I'll go TCU, and then give me Mike Miles has been outstanding this season. Mike Miles is coming off of his past 6 games, 18, 21, 23, 33, 18, 16. Give me TCU with the win and a good game for Mr. Miles. I'll set Mike Miles at 24 points in this one for the winning Horned Frogs.
I can't pick against Jerome Tang. He's a Scott Drew disciple. Okay. Kansas State's the best story in college basketball. Picked to finish last in the Big 12, now tied for first in the Big 12. 15-1, 9-game winning streak, got road wins over Texas and Baylor. If you can win at Texas, you can win at Baylor, you can win at TCU, can't you?
Theoretically.
I think Kansas State goes inside Kirby Smart Arena and extends its winning streak, stays atop the Big 12 standings. Game 3, Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, number 14 Iowa State at number 2 Kansas, inside Bill Self Fieldhouse. He deserves that. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. KenPom's got it Kansas -8. Boy, they put them Jayhawks on ESPN Plus a little bit.
My man GP just gave you the heads up. Everyone listening, when we get time for this, remind the people of the time this game is tipping off.
Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. It is it's 2 of the 3 first place teams in the Big 12, and they're gonna be streaming, baby, streaming on Saturday.
When it gets to 4 Eastern and you're flipping through, if you're still a cable household, you're gonna have to bring up the streamer, ESPN Plus. If you don't have it, you're gonna have to pony up and get it done. This is the 3rd game in the final 4-1. As a reminder, you have to go opposite me. I will take Kansas at home to win and to cover. It is a fair, given the way Iowa State plays and how well Iowa State has been. 8's actually that's a little bit bloated there, but I will go KU. It's 13th in both offensive and defensive efficiency right now at KenPom. Iowa State rates better defensively, unquestionably. It will try and slow this game down and try and make it so that it maybe gets Kansas caught in a 59-56 game with 2 minutes to go. Maybe it's successful on that part, but the one thing that I think Iowa State, I know Iowa State's going to key in on this, but it could have some trouble. It's the best team at turning over teams in the country. No one turns teams over at a greater rate in college basketball than Iowa State. But the problem is DeJuan Harris is as sure-headed and steady as almost any point in America. And he is so reliable that he just might be the fly in that ointment there. I think he'll have a good game. I think Jalen Wilson will play well. Give me Kevin McCullough to be the stud in this one. I will take Kansas to win and cover that 8.
I think Kansas is due for a blowout at home. They got pushed by Oklahoma State, got pushed by Oklahoma. I think they're due for a blowout at home, but I got to go opposite you.
It's out of your hands.
It's out of my hands. So if people say, hey, GP, I saw on CBSSports.com you laid the points with Kansas, and now you're on the podcast taking Iowa State +8. What gives? You play both sides? No, this is out of my hands. I send in my picks to Marcus Nelson on a Thursday night, and then Deadleg comes on the podcast on Friday morning, and he picks Kansas, which means I got to go with Iowa State. It's not my fault. Game 4, Sunday, noon Eastern. It's number 25 Marquette at number 12 Xavier inside the Pete Gillen Center. You can watch it on Fox. KenPom has it Xavier -2.
Game of the weekend here. Xavier still hasn't lost in Big East play. Marquette coming off a win at home on Wednesday, now 14-4. Beat UConn, looking damn good. What a tasty one this is. And reminder, if you're listening but you're not really listening, this is not a Saturday game. This is your Sunday noon Eastern game. Easy into the Sunday slate of NFL playoff games as well. Sean Miller has restored in no time Xavier back to the level, if not above, where it was before Travis Steele got there. And Travis Steele, he did a okay job, but he just didn't do a good enough job to keep the gig. And it is what it is. But Miller has
Why Travis still got to take stray bullets on the podcast?
I'm just saying it is a fact that under Travis Steele, Xavier did not have an NCAA tournament level team for 4 years. That was the longest drought that program had seen since the early 1980s. Sean Miller comes in. We look up 6-0, tied atop the Big East with Providence, a 14-3 overall record there. And Xavier fans, they're on cloud 9 right now. Tremendous offensive team, gets the benefit of having this game right there on the home floor at Cintas. I will take Xavier in this spot, but we should have a game here. And by that, I mean, this thing, if they really let them play, if they really start going, this thing gets decided in the 90s. I would love to see something like that. Also, both teams, because they can score, because they can really move it, there is the potential that maybe this gets away from one of the teams and we wind up having a double-digit spread. But I will lean against that. Give me Xavier to win and to cover, but I'm thinking give me X like 90-83, but it's a competitive 90-83, and in doing so, Xavier continues to ascend and make me look good because I picked that team to win the Big East, my man.
Look at you.
Yeah,
look at you. I think with some
you had him 7th.
There's no way I did that. I wouldn't have done that. That didn't sound like something I would have done.
Okay.
But I know I didn't. I know I didn't pick Xavier to win the league. Would you? Right now, you're still picking Xavier to stay? Of course you are. If they're 6-0.
Hey, you know what? I'm bailing.
I'm bailing now. Hey, you guys are even better than I thought you would be, but I got to go now.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier's on a 10-game winning streak. Marquette's on a 5-game winning streak. Both of these teams are playing at a really high level. They're not just teams that are ranked right now or, got good records right now. They're like playing their best basketball, or at least some version of their best basketball right now. So I'm with you. This is going to be terrific on Sunday. Needless to say, we'll be focused on Bills Dolphins because that's on CBS. It's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars, but we'll try to keep an eye on Marquette Xavier as well. Yeah, I said this the other night when we were in studio. We had Connecticut and Marquette on our air CBS Sports Network, and I said I think Connecticut is better than Marquette, but I don't think they'll win at Marquette tonight. I'll take the home team. And I'd say I don't know that I think Marquette's better than Xavier, but I do think they're comparable teams. And when you got comparable teams, I'm going to take the home team. I'll lay 2 points with Xavier. I'll take the Musketeers inside the Pete Gillen Center.
All right, Game 5. Put out a poll on the podcast Twitter account. 4 options. Audience picked the game with 29.7% of the vote. Here it is. Game 5. Saturday, 2 Eastern, ESPN Plus. North Texas.
Okay.
At 1 loss, Florida Atlantic. It was a narrow vote. I'll reveal if you voted. You know the games involved, but if you didn't check it, I'll reveal at the back end as we preview the rest of the weekend. Just what else I was considering there. But how about this? CUSA special. Florida Atlantic is 15-1. North Texas preseason favorite is 14-3. KenPom's got the line Florida Atlantic -5. Before we pick the game, I will note this is going to be on Greg Gant court.
All
Greg
right.
Gant, of course, all-time leading scorer in school history at FAU, 1,972 points. A big shouts to Greg Gant. I have a trivia time 3 times over before you pick this game. Ready?
Come on.
How many times has FAU made the NCAA tournament?
47,000.
Give me an honest guess.
4.
1, 2002.
Yep.
What year did FAU join Division I? You know it happened before 2002.
I do know that. I've always known that. I've known that my whole life. I'm going to say 1993.
Ooh, look at you. You're hot. 94. Not bad. I'm going to count that as a win. Last one. I got trivia time this by Fran Dunphy about 7 years ago. So here we go.
Love Fran Dunphy.
FAU, Florida Atlantic University, based in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yep.
Greater Miami.
Yep.
You know the nickname, right?
The Owls.
There are 4 Owls in men's Division I sports. Florida Atlantic is one of them. Play along at home. Hold on. Play along at home. If you pause it, if you want to take a noodle, name the other 3. Florida Atlantic's one of 4 Owls. Who are the other 3 schools that are Owls?
Well, Temple, obviously.
Shouts to Fran Dunphy.
Shouts to Fran Dunphy.
That's why he asked me, because he was at Temple.
Yeah. And then it's Kentucky. They should change. They don't deserve to be Wildcats anymore.
Yeah, the Kentucky Owls. I would actually be in favor of that because there's too many damn Wildcats. There's like at least 12 too many Wildcats.
Okay, I'm cheating, but I now know them.
Don't cheat. Why are you cheating?
I wouldn't have got them because I wouldn't have got them.
How did you get it? Do you really Googled it that fast?
Well, there's a website that I look at that has everything like Jacksonville Dolphins, Radford Highlanders. So you just do a search for Owls and it pops right up. Should I tell you? Should I tell you?
You inform the list. If you still want to think, pause the podcast. But to anyone that doesn't care, go ahead and reveal the other 2. One of them is gettable. The other one's kind of sneaky.
I would not have gotten either one of these.
Wow.
I do know that the Rice Owls. I know that, but I would not have guessed it. But I do know
feel like
that.
that's gettable. Yeah.
And then the 4th is Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was stumped by Mr. Dunphy when he did this. I got 3 of the 4. I did not get Kennesaw State. The line, Gary Parrish, FAU -5 at home against North Texas on Saturday. Who you got?
I'm laying points with Florida Atlantic. I have Florida Atlantic in the top 25 and 1. I have no idea, and I say this as respectfully as I can say it because I love Pat Kelsey. I love what they're doing at Charleston. I feel bad
in the country.
I feel bad not ranking Charleston. I feel bad every morning.
Illinois in over the Charleston Cougars.
From a resumes perspective, it's not even close. And you know what's also not close? Florida Atlantic. I don't understand how AP voters could be ranking Charleston and not Florida Atlantic. If you are looking for schools with that kind of profile, mid-major schools with incredible records, Florida Atlantic's resume is better than Charleston's resume. It just is.
I agree.
I don't really understand where the whole I'm happy for Charleston because I love how much it means to them.
You can't stand this program. It's quite clear, actually.
No, I'm trying to say this as honestly as I can say it. I am happy for Charleston because I see how much it means to Pat and that program and the city, the whole deal. I'm happy for them. I root for them, but I don't understand it. I don't understand how they got into the top 25 of the AP poll with the resume that they have right now. They don't have big wins. They don't have a big win. They don't have strong computer numbers. Like often to get ranked, you've got to have a resume that suggests it or computer numbers that suggest it. And they don't have either one, except for maybe strength of record. They have a strong strength of record, but outside of that, they don't have strong computer numbers and they don't have a strong resume.
This is incredible, by the way. I'm asking you to pick a North Texas Florida Atlantic game, and you are burying the Cougars.
No, but I'm not. What I'm saying is the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I have Florida Atlantic ranked and I don't have Charleston ranked. And sometimes people will ask me about that. And from my perspective, when you look at those 2 schools, it's not close who should be ranked and who shouldn't be.
I got both in my power ranking, so I love to both Charleston and FAU. That being said, you've got a game to pick. FAU -5 against North Texas. By the way, FAU beat North Texas on the road in December by 4 points as a reminder.
I love Charleston. I hope that's clear. I spend vacation time there, for crying out loud. I've covered a game there. I hope they win every game when they play for the rest of the earth. I hope Charleston never loses again. Okay. Actually, I don't, because if that happens, then the people are going to be hitting me about why didn't you rank them on January 13th?
That's right.
Idiot. I'll get called an idiot. Nobody likes that, do they?
I figure at some point you're going to pick this game.
I picked Florida Atlantic. It's first words out of my mouth.
Oh, okay, I missed that entirely. You got FAU covering the 5. I will go North Texas. Florida Atlantic escaped in overtime against FIU on Wednesday. Actually, really, it's another streaming game. I caught that. Kind of pulled a Houdini there. Florida Atlantic in its past 4 games, a 4-point win at North Texas, a 2-point win at home over UAB, a 4-point win at home over Charlotte, and then a 4-point win in overtime. I will take Texas to finish inside that number. Grant McCaslin's a really good coach, so we will not. We are diverging on that. Quick heads up on everything else to be aware of. Friday, got a good one. Michigan State at Illinois, 9 Eastern, FS1. Illinois is playing 6 games in a 15-day stretch. Right now, the Illini are 2-3 in the Big Ten. That's the team that GP has ahead of Charleston in his rankings. As a reminder, Michigan State is 4-1. It would help produce push for separation in the league if Illinois can hold serve at home Friday night and beat Michigan State. Also Friday, pair of 12 and 5 teams vying for top spot in the A10. We got VCU at Dayton, 9 Eastern, ESPN2. Kind of tasty. Neither team will have an at-large resume, you wouldn't think, barring literally running all the way to the A10 postseason bracket without a loss. But that's a good one. And then the other one on Friday, Utah State at Nevada, 11 Eastern, FS1. Nevada, 34th in the net. Utah State is almost like a metrics teacher's pet. It's 24th in the net, but looking for its first quad one win on Friday. Saturday, Kentucky at Tennessee, noon Eastern. Kentucky is a decent three-point shooting team, 37.9% from the field, but it averages only 19 or so per game. Tennessee's three-point defense, GP, is 20.9%. That would be by far the best in the history of college basketball. I have to think there will be regression to the mean, but just for fun, over under Kentucky, 25% from 3 against Tennessee on Saturday.
Over under 5.5 made 3-pointers by Kentucky against Tennessee on Saturday. Over. And
Okay.
they'll still lose.
All right. Duly noted. I asked a question. I got to stick myself to it as well. I will say Kentucky goes over 5.5 made threes. I will say it goes under 25% from 3. Elsewhere on Saturday, Providence at Creighton is a 2 Eastern FS1 tip. Providence off to its first 6-0 start ever in Big East play. And they don't have a single starter back from last year's Sweet 16 team. Ed Cooley is not on the Jerome Tang shelf right now, I guess, for National Coach of the Year. But for a second straight year, he is right now has to be in the top 5 for consideration. Creighton, it's desperation time. 9-8 team, must-win game. Duke at Clemson, 5 Eastern, ACC Network. This was second place. Barely, it had the lead in the poll for the Final Four and 1 literally until the final hour. Got 29.4% of the vote. Clemson is 6-0 in ACC play. When's the last time it got to 7-0, GP?
1993.
It never happened. Their previous best start ever was 5-0 in 96-97. Clemson trying to get to 7-0 for the first time ever. I'd actually be curious to know. Duke right now is 2 games behind the loss column in ACC play. I'd set the over-under at like 3.5 times ever Duke has played Clemson while being 2 games behind Clemson in the ACC standing. So that's pretty much what to know on Saturday. Arizona, Oregon, New Mexico, San Diego State, CBS Sports Network, 9 Eastern. Keep an eye on that. That was also in the poll there. And then, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. GP's got to get out of here. There's a couple more on Sunday, but it's a Quickie Friday episode. Let's wrap up this puppy.
It should be a fun weekend. Can't wait to talk about it on Sunday. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts at Apple. Leave some comments. More of us than there are of them. It needs to be reflected. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that as well. And we will talk to you again Sunday. Till then, take care.